Welcome, Martin, on stage.
Thank you. Hello.
Now we are going to share the story of FC Magdeburg from Germany, from Bundesliga 2. Actually trying to tie together all the different sessions that we've had across the day, from gamification, from content, from bringing life, bringing the processes into place, and also implementing the right piece of software. So let's get started. This is a story of 1 to 2 years of working together with Martin and his team. And, well, yeah, you already know who we are. So before we jump into the story, many people mentioned the name Datatalks today, so maybe just a few words about the company itself. I've been with the company for 6-7 years, and for me personally, this is actually quite a special experience because I'm on the stage just after Fiona, and Fiona was one of the starting points in my sports data career, reading her book. But Datatalks itself is providing a piece of software which is a supported data platform. We work with all kinds of sports organizations from small and big, mainly spectator sports, some participation based, and basically with our platform we aim to help increase all kinds of revenue streams from ticketing to sponsorship. What process we are going to follow in this presentation is basically getting a bit of background into the club Magdeburg, what challenges they faced, what opportunities they saw when they started working with the data, and then looking through how we went by implementing the software, what processes we put in place, and share some examples before we all leave for the next session. So, word over to Martin.
Yes, short question. So, who of you have heard about Magdeburg before? Okay, a few, good. The other ones who never heard about Magdeburg, Magdeburg is a small city right close to Berlin, and we have a very successful history, as you see. So we won one of the international cup as the onlyest club from the eastern part of Germany. Yeah, there was a time when Germany was divided into two parts. So it was a successful part, and then you see the other picture. There was a phase in the history of Magdeburg where nobody cares about that club. We have a stadium for approximately 30,000 people, and at that time, when I was playing for that club, so 2,000, 3,000 people were in the stadium, so it was a pity. But nowadays we are back in business, and this is a picture of the last season from the last match day. So our cup win had the anniversary of 50 years, and as you see, so the first and the second Bundesliga is full of very big brands. So the second Bundesliga, for example, Schalke 04, Hertha BSC, FC Cologne, so big brands, and we are very happy to be part of the second Bundesliga, and of course very ambitious, but later on. I'm very open with numbers. So you see at the second division club FC Magdeburg, we're doing more or less 30 million euros revenue in total, and as you see, there is of course media revenue, but media is not my part. So we have a sporting director, and he's responsible for all sports, and I'm responsible for anything else, and but here you see that advertising, for example, 10 million euros revenue is very important for us. So, and we have approximately 800 partners, commercial partners, from 500 euros up to 500,000 euros. And of course there is hospitality. So we have a hospitality zone of approximately 1,000 places, skyboxes and VIP zones, etc. And this is also a very important revenue stream for us. And of course I would say the merchandising, 3 million. 2 years ago, merchandise was outsourced by a agency, and since 2 years we bring it back in our club. So we are in the very beginning, and at that point, 3 million euros revenue. From my point of view, is a good start, but there is a lot of potential as we see now. So, can you click next one? Or did I lost anything? No. Of course, Ball said it for Wimbledon FC as well. So everybody wants to increase the revenues. Of course, that's the big aim, and of course we want to do it FCM-like. So there is. Can you click again?
But what does FCM-like mean?
Sorry, FCM is the short form of FC Magdeburg. So in Germany we have long phrases. So and for this conference I try to short that. In Germany we have, as you know, the 50+1 rule. So there is no chance to bring external investors into the club. There is a chance, but they can't decide anything. So, for example, you have in Munich at 1860 Munich, there is an investor, Hassan Ismaik, and he bought some shares of the club, but he can't decide anything. So in Germany it's a very special rule, and that's why for FC Magdeburg it's not possible to hold or to bring external investors into the club. So next one. So there is, of course, the areas of increase the revenue I've said, and to be honest, there is a glass ceiling. That means, as I said, 30,000 people a stadium, and we cannot raise the ticket prices season after season after season. So there is a limit, and also for hospitality, we have a certain amount of hospitality, and we can't switch and have more spaces for our hospitality guests. And as I said, so merchandising, there is a lot of space for improvement, and of course sponsorship as well. So there is, as you see, so in every certain revenue stream there is space of potential, but to be honest, it's more or less in merchandising, hospitality, public ticketing. There is space. So next one, and of course. We need strong partners to fill the gap you have seen, and DataTalks is one of the partners. And now we can share some projects and some cases with you.
Thank you, Martin. I find especially interesting the 50+1 rule, because there's no majority shareholder other than the supporters themselves. So basically, you need to find the extra revenue, the incremental revenue that you can grow in, that you can catch up with the big ones. And that's where we are trying to help FC Magdeburg over the past 2 years. And also it's interesting that you broke it down by business areas, because basically we also break down the way we work into 4 areas. And it's not rocket science, but it's the 4 fundamentals, as we call it, to increase revenue through 1, growing the database, just as you mentioned in gamification, on building the integrations with different kind of systems. 2, which is more a technical piece, harmonizing the data across the different systems, so that Martin is Martin in 2, 3 different systems, but it should be one Martin in our system. Then once we have a solid foundation, then somebody needs to find the insights, somebody needs to find opportunities, somebody needs to find the threats. Just as Fiona mentioned, out of a sudden, the opt-in rate dropped from 80 to 40%. So what is the process to handle that? And then once you see the opportunity or the threat, you need to do some kind of campaigns, you need to do some kind of actions. And that's basically where human process and system process adds up, and we work together with Magdeburg to reach this. And then when it comes to the first fundamental, growing the database consistently. So in the last 1.5 years, we went from approximately 60,000 identifiable, cleaned records in the database to around 110,000, which compared to what Barcelona might have is not so much, but compared to what the city of Magdeburg is, it is quite much, especially that it's 73%, and that we can only do if we consistently work with the gamifications, if we consistently work with the integrations of new systems, because there's always new Excel sheets, there's always new systems to connect, and well, that's the work that's in the background. And this, as I mentioned, led to 110,000 cleaned, deduplicated profiles with quite a rich set of data points available on them. We know the demographics that was mentioned in the previous section. We know how old they are, where they live, and so on.
And fun fact, Magdeburg has approximately 250,000 inhabitants, so more or less the half of them are into our database right now.
Exactly. So is there a glass ceiling on the database growth, or will it continue to grow?
Yeah, I mean, the point is that we are very famous in Magdeburg and the region very close to Magdeburg. But if you go to Cologne or to Munich, for example, and you say, "Hey, I'm Martin from FC Magdeburg," so nobody cares about that, and I mean, nobody wants to be in our data center.
Exactly, and that's what logic dictates. But if you actually look at the data, we still see that daily there's 100 to 200 people being added to the database. So it is growing. Maybe it will slow down eventually, but not just yet, at least.
And to add this, as successful we are, as interested we are, and I mean, if we would so just hypothetically, if we went up to the first division, then I would say that, okay, that would be the big boost to bring more people into our database.
Also international audiences, because now the majority of the database is German-based,
yes.
But then eventually we would go to international markets. So anyways, first fundamental, growing the database is progressing, and there's a mix of demographics data, behavioral data, and transactional data available on the supporters. And then comes the system piece that I mentioned, fundamental 2. Well, this is how reporting used to look like. This was the reports coming from the ticketing system, which is probably good from a finance perspective. It gives you the invoicing details and so on, but it's definitely not good for doing agile campaigns, to being really reactive on trends. So that's where even Fiona mentioned, but that's where we are coming in as well with the software to implement the dashboards. The dashboards to actually allow you to slice and dice the database, allow you to figure out what's working and what's not working. And then basically once you find your insights, then to go into finding the audiences to the insights. So what you see on the screen is an example of a simple query of who are the season ticket holders who also made 50 euros worth of merchandise purchase and bought a specific product. This, again, is not rocket science, but it is something that goes down from 1 week of work to 1 minute of work that makes a difference.
And maybe to add this, we are still, although we have 30 million euros in total revenue, we are still a small football club, and we have a responsible person for merchandising, for ticketing, and so on. But we didn't have any resources to put one guy as a head of data talks or so. So we have to put the effort in different departments. So that's why we are having a lot of discussions into our club.
Yeah, it's very right, and that's how projects naturally grow. Very often they start from not having anyone and then just doing this extra on top of everything else, and then eventually, and that's the key to this project itself, the evidence comes, you know that things are working, then the senior management starts realizing that, hey, maybe we should actually put some more efforts, some more resources into this. And that's how we've reached the process stage. So, of course, having a piece of technology is not enough because, again, now I'm quoting from previous sessions, nothing will happen just by having a software. It will happen if there's someone using the software, and that there needs to be an idea. What are we going to do? Who are we going to target? What message are we going to send? What channels are we going to do? Are we going paid or are we going own channels? Then there's a work on the execution. Who puts the message together? Who puts the campaign together? And who runs it? And that's where most sports organizations actually stop. So they don't go into the measurement further down than open rates and engagement rate and to some extent conversion rates. But that's where we need to go one step further, knowing how many of the people actually converted, what is the revenue, what products they purchased, and to use this insight again to make this a loop and not just a linear process. So basically that's the whole process part that we are trying to follow together with Magdeburg and the colleagues at Magdeburg. And
let me something add because it's important at that point. I mean, you're not cheap. And that's so. I'm explain. But for me, and I'm responsible for the finance part, is we do not have any fuck up money in the system. So every euro we can invest should have a return, and in the best part more than €1. And that's why the constantly improvement is very important for me. So I see that we make money out of the data, and that's the point, to be honest.
And I totally agree. If after year 1, year 2, you don't see any money coming out of it, well, then you should ask why that is.
Quit the contract. Yeah.
Exactly. So, can you share a few examples of what you have done, Martin?
So Jersey is one of the most emotional things in the football club, and as you've seen, we've played last year against Hertha BSC. So from when I was younger, Hertha BSC was playing in the Champions League, and for us, Hertha went down in the second division, and it was our biggest match we've played, and we won this match 6-4. It was completely crazy, and we've heard it in the morning, emotion, and there was a state of emotion where everybody was open to buy new jerseys, and we targeted the people who were in the stadium and who weren't in the stadium, and bring some advertise of this is the perfect moment to buy a jersey, and obviously it went very well.
Yes, and to put the human side to it, actually how it happened is that the merchandise guy was still at the stadium, and he called me the moment the final whistle was on, and he said, now let's send a campaign. So basically the fun part of it is that finding the people who were at the game by the entrance data, finding the people who are members but were not at the game was not taking time. We could do this send out. You see, it's very simple, basically 3 lines of messages and just asking which jersey do you like. That could be sent, and that actually resulted in very, very, very nice results. So you see a 67% open rate. Do you have any idea of what the average in the sports industry is? 40. 5. Any other guesses? 30. You are closest. It's around 35%. And I'm not saying it's because of the software, it's because of the moment. It is that the supporters were so hyped about the results that if you send the right message to the right people at the right time, then the results will naturally come. And that's what we see here. And also the same thing with the click rate. Click rates tend to be 1 to 3%, and if you reach that, you're already good. But we had 15%, and then the extra revenue from the jersey sales, which is quite significant. And also, coming back to the evidence, does it work? How do we know it works? I use this screenshot to introduce the concept of the shark teeth. You see here that average daily orders in the merchandise store is 20 to 30. But then you see 3 spikes. And what caused the spikes? Well, the spikes are coming from the campaigns. It's very clear. And also here where you see a breakdown of which days and which hours within the day are resulting in sales. When it's white, there's no purchases. When it's blue, it's many purchases. And you see here that the 2 occasions during the week when purchases really started coming in are just after the next hour after the campaign was sent. So that's the kind of evidence that you don't need a data scientist for. You just need to look at the data. And then you know it works, so we should do more campaigns. That's a conclusion from here. Anything from ticketing to share?
Who of you have ever heard about FC Elversberg? So it's the second division club, and everybody of you who's responsible for a football club, you have normally teams in your league which are very attractive, and you have teams in your league which are less attractive. And Elversberg is maybe one of them who's less attractive. So Even FC Magdeburg has problems to sell tickets if Elversberg is coming. Beside that, normally we have space for approximately 2,000 away fans. They are coming with 80, 100. So we have to make a lot of advertisement to sell tickets for this certain match or for any other match when an opponent is coming who's not as attractive as any club.
And to put the human side to it again, so basically what happened is that the match was, I think, on a Sunday or something, and then Friday afternoon I got a call from the ticketing manager saying, hey, we still have some tickets left, around 10% of the stadium or maybe 15% of the stadium is still empty. What should we do? And then, well, it's a very specific campaign for a specific audience that we did. So we tried to find the people who previously came against this opponent. So how do you find the people who are interested in a very not interesting game? So that's what we tried to slice and dice in the database. We did 3 versions of the campaign and came up with around 30,000 people that we still could believe that might be interested one way or another. So again, message is clear. There's a discounted ticket, just come. You don't want to send a discount to everyone, though, because then you would piss off the people who already paid full price. So then you need to be specific.
And sorry, if I would ask this, when I'm a season ticket holder and I get a message from FC Magdeburg, I'm a season ticket holder from FC Magdeburg, and I get a ticket from the club to say, do you want to buy tickets for that match against Elversberg? I would say, didn't he understand me? So it's a completely different approach, and I would very angry if I get this kind of mail, and that's why it's, from our point of view, very important to target very clearly.
Exactly. You always need to know who to target, but also who not to target. So the exclusion groups are also very, very important. And once again, this resulted in quite many good ticket sales. Otherwise, this wouldn't be on stage today. But we anyway sold for over 20,000 tickets that otherwise would have been just empty seats. And the good thing is that we also know that we sold tickets for other games. So there were people buying already for the next 1 to 3 games, which is again, the incremental to this.
In this case is we built up together with our partner Lotto, and because our aim is to increase our sponsorship revenue, not just by finding new companies, but also by building up our actual sponsors. And so, together with Lotto, we searched for a hook where we can bring Lotto into our fans and make it more feasible and to bring them more data as well. I mean, they also want to sell their products, and therefore we built up, as we heard in the morning, as a gamification approach, which worked also very well at the point. To be honest, it seems like everything works well. That's not the point. Of course, we are presenting the good points. We also had some bad points, of course. But this is something which worked very well. Yeah.
Exactly, and the gamification in this case serves 3 purposes. 1, you create excitement among the fans. On social media, you share it. There's a good reach. 2, you create identifiable contacts in your database, so the responses are not on Facebook comments, but they actually flow into the system. And 3, well, it's direct revenue for the club from the sponsor. So obviously that's the 3rd pillar that really should be understood and really should be utilized, just as the last question from the previous session was. But to sum up, so we've seen how we went about from nothing to something. How we went from the opportunities to getting closer to the glass ceiling, and this is the summary of basically the work that we've been doing. And if you ask me what I'm most proud of, it's actually not the ticketing, because tickets very much depend on the sporting performance, and if the sales is already good, well, extra sales is great, but it's more interesting, I think, about the data and the merchandise part, because merchandise was just getting started, and then reaching the next step within that with data is basically a catalyst to reaching your goals faster. But you shouldn't go home remembering just that there was a blue-colored club in Germany, but maybe something more tangible than that. And that should be the evidence. So basically, data is evidence, and the whole project is about evidence. The club doesn't have resources to waste. They have very few people, very limited resources, so whatever we do, we need to see at the end if it's working or not. And hopefully, in most cases, it does work, but sometimes it won't, and then we need to improve from it.
Yeah, to be honest, in the first days, I was very skeptical. So because I've seen, okay, we pay so much money for a system, and I said, okay, let's try, because it sounds very logical. And that was the point when we had the proof of concept, because, as I said, merchandising, there was nothing. We hadn't any database, we hadn't anything, and so it was important for us to build up anything for us which works. And so as I said, I mean, you have seen the numbers. For me, important is the EBIT. Also the revenue is not the truth. So the EBIT is the truth, and the EBIT is very very healthy and very strong, and that's why this is the proof of concept. And we are very happy and ambitious, because this is not the end. I'm pretty sure that there is a lot of potential. I'm happy to bring the potential up.
Exactly, and so are we. And what this proves again is that there's no 50+1. There's no majority stakeholder. It is building from ground organically with the boost of data, making it quite sustainable, for one. And two, that even if today we speak about revenue, basically during the whole session, but at the end of the day, it's about the supporter, because they only spend money if they get something back, and that's the special experience that they should be getting back. Yes.
And sorry, just one point, because as I said, we have not a certain person who's responsible for the whole project, so we bring this project into different departments, and so every head of department feels responsible for that project. And this is, from my point of view, a big plus, because everybody is identifying with this and know, okay, as better it works, as better the output is.
Yes, and this is the one quote that we would really like you to remember, that this is not basically the end, it's just the start. This is the foundation to build from. And with that, well, thank you very much. And well,
excuse my bad English, but I hope you understand everything.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.